Everyone, welcome to our fourth episode of Commerce Rewired. Really excited to be here today with the usuals. Thanks to our partners at Kit and Ace for once again sponsoring us. Really appreciate the sponsorship. All of our apparel is worn today because of Kit and Ace, and really appreciate the ongoing relationship. Also want to thank Cattle today, even though the stats that we have today are not coming from Cattle. They're just a great partner, and I want to continue to mention them because without partners like Kit and Ace and Cattle, we don't get to do things like this. So today's topic is going to be about, yes, you guessed it, AI. However, we're going to take a little bit of a spin on AI today, four different perspectives, four great thought processes around AI. And I'm going to start off with what I call the AI moment of discovery. The reason I'm branding it this is I think everything needs to be labeled. And years ago, when I first started with Walmart, we were naming something called the first moment of truth. And that first moment of truth really came from Procter and Gamble. And it was about the time when you discover an item on shelf. And so, for example, you would be looking down the shampoo aisle. I know Johnny shampoo is very important to you. So when you're looking at the shampoo, is it Head and Shoulders? Is it some other brand? And that's where you would discover 20 different bottles of shampoo. And then you would start to have dialogue and conversation with your friends about what's this one? What's the difference between this? Is this one good for dandruff? Is this one good for itchy skin, or et cetera, et cetera? So that was what Procter and Gamble had come out with, is this. And I've really simplified it for this podcast because it could take about 40 minutes to describe it in detail. But then years later, fast forward to search, and Google really being involved in search, they came out with even a website and videos, and they talked to business leaders about ZMOT, the zero moment of truth. And that was all about people discovering from a search the products before they even went to store level. They were doing research on items and getting really quality information so that they can go to store level and be better prepared for their shopping experience. And over the last few months, I felt like we were in this AI moment of discovery. You're now starting to put stuff into whatever chat or chat agent and asking it questions, whether it's about the weather, fishing trip coming up, an event that we're going to, and starting to look for information. But that's when we're discovering so many things, because it's not just a quick answer, is pages of information that you're getting, and you can go down a rabbit hole. Just ask one prompt. So I really believe we're in this AI moment of discovery, and you got to really think about how you're structuring your business, your content, your product assortment, your FAQs, your blogs, your articles. How do they now, not to write about a product, but write about how that product solves an opportunity for a customer? And that's a big distinction as we get into this new world of the AI moment of discovery. And with that preamble, I will now get into some of our questions with the team. But I just want to level set with everyone where we're kind of in this new phase of maturity. And team, thanks for being here. 7 o'clock in the morning for David and I. So it's one where we thank the spouse for the coffee. So let's get to this. When we're thinking about AI, are we thinking about AI as still a chatbot, or it has something more come from the release of these new chat agents? And I'll start with David this time.
All right. Yeah. 7 a.m. It's the best time of the day, Chris. It's when my brain is actually functioning. Where are we at? I feel very comfortable with AI at this point. I've been a part of several SaaS build-outs of AI product. I think I stopped thinking about it as a chat bot or even a user interface quite some time ago, right? Like it's just now just an integrated business tool into absolutely everything that we do. I think a chat bot 12 months ago was maybe an innovation, but today the scale at which you can build AI product, I don't know if anybody's using Claude Code or Replit or N8N or anything of that nature, but I mean, a normal human being can build software products now. So I think a chatbot was a nice way to kind of like dip your toe into artificial intelligence. But today there are thousands of them, right? I mean, so that's the speed of commoditization with the technology that we're talking about, which really, at least in our existence of using softwares for the past 40 or so years, you get used to slow adoption of things, right? It's like I use this product, and over time, if I'm convinced or if things are disruptive enough, maybe I'll shift my usage over to another product, right? We've seen that with search engines and word processors and presentation builders and everything. But we're at a stage today where you just like you're cycling through technology so fast, and 90 days is an eternity with this stuff. So no, I would say we're most of us quite likely that are in the business universe anyway are probably advanced past that stage of like, could this be a chatbot or could it write my email? So we're on to more advanced things already, which is exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. And I know maybe 6, 7 months ago, we were all starting to just experiment with it. And some of us that were early adopters were doing this 2 or 3 years ago. I know I bought my membership to ChatGPT about probably about 3 years ago at this time, and I was actually waiting for it to be approved because there was an approval process for the first couple of million users or so, and it's already come such a long way. Do you think, Johnny, are we past this point between just testing it out, learning the prompts, to now figuring out ways to make it operational?
First of all, I just want to say that in episode 3, I wore the same sweater you did. And I just want people to know it's not the exact same sweater because I usually wear a medium. And knowing Chris, he's probably likes it a bit looser, but I like the Kid and Ace fit on my skin very nicely. So I probably took a medium. I did not take a small, but a nice medium. So different, same shirt, but they're actually different, if you know what I mean.
This
So
is
to
awesome.
the
Johnny just called me fat on a podcast. Thanks,
no,
Johnny.
no, 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 because I get made fun of having no. I called I was making fun of myself of like I should be a large, but I choose to be a medium in all shirts. So I think we're in this business realm, and so I think most people are still not even potentially using it to be truthful, or they've heard of it and they are still using it as a one line sentence chat, and that they got the answer and that's it. Hey, they plan my vacation, I'm done. They're not like plan my vacation, where should I go? Which hotel? Like it just drilling down, right? Like I want to eat between 1 and 2. What are the best restaurants with the least lines? I think right now most people are thinking of like how the internet was. It was just email at one point. Right? It was just like this one little thing we could do on the internet, and now it's circumventing life. So I don't think most people are there. I think the business community is there. But if I look at other professions or friends, like they're not in it as much as we are, to be truthful, no matter their line of work. In retail, I think it's about asking questions for sure, but it's really how does it augment judgment and move faster? Yes, but with context, right? I think that's the clarity that we're like, how do we get out of this? Yes, it's a chat, but how do we make sure we're using it properly? And I think the companies that are gonna win is like they're asking, what can I add? They're not asking just what can I ask it, but what can I delegate to it? Right? What's that next evolution look like? But I think most of the world is like, we're like Chris and Dave. I know you're like way advanced. Me and Tara, I think are still catching up to you guys. You guys are naming things all the time. 3 years ago, that's awesome. So I think we're there, but I don't know if like a landscaping company is doing this as much as we are on a daily basis, on an hourly basis.
Yeah, that's a great point. I do think our industry leads to us kind of being early adopters on things. We're at conferences, we hear the terms, we start to go explore. When it comes to people just starting out, like you're right, the prompts are very much how they would do a Google search, and they're not seeing the true benefit of it. Whereas I write a lot of articles, and one of the best practices someone told me about a year ago is if you want to write to your audience, you write your article and then you ask the chat agent that you're using to read that article as if they're your audience, and you kind of list some personas of people that you're kind of targeting with your articles. And then it will give you feedback of gaps in your articles that are missing or don't relate to who you think you're writing to. And to do that perspective was a very interesting model of like, if you want to target somebody that's, I don't know, 45 to 65 and lives in Texas versus somebody that lives in Toronto at the same age group, you will see clearly different writing styles to target those users. It's quite amazing when you start to fine tune your prompts to get to a better writing style. Tara, I know you have a tremendous amount of thoughts on where we can go with this. You and I were speaking earlier, and I loved where your thoughts were on AI and how not only just individuals, but how organizations can leverage AI and not just going out and saying, hey, someone go and mess around with your email topics and subjects. Like I think we're all past that. So loved your perspective, and If you can give some thoughts, would be great.
I actually think that, there's a lot of organizations that are very mature in their AI strategy. And it is an AI strategy. It is not an AI tool. It's not a tactical implementation. Years ago, I was introducing AI in merchandising and supply chain. And when you look at an organization and many brands that have 200, 300 store locations, 1,000, 2,000 SKUs, the ability to do assortment planning, the ability to do inventory management, inventory allocation, planning like that was all done in spreadsheets. There were partners out in 2019, 2020 that were coming in and leveraging AI to consume the content, consume all of the data from the previous 3 years, and building out the forecasting. I think there's a lot of organizations that have embraced that, have found partners that are integrating into the business. And to Johnny's point, being delegated some of the monotonous, some of the redundant, some of the overwhelmingly time consuming tasks, they're being replaced by AI. So I think there's a real maturity level within retail and especially with global brands. Maybe not within Canadian brand specific, but those leaders that have been thinking about AI and how it is going to be part of the strategy, those brands are the ones that are more advanced. It's kind of like e-commerce, right? Those brands that launched in 2003, 2004, 2005, they were building omni-channel as they went. Those brands that reacted to the pandemic and thought, oh my God, I need to launch a website. I mean, they were behind. They were not prepared. So I think there's a real distinction, and it is probably the maturity level of certain organizations. Many have already integrated it, and it's always part of their strategy when they're building out their capital plans.
Right. That's a great point. Some folks are just using it and they're not even aware. It's just built into so many softwares already, and they're just looking at these tools as enhancements, but they're not really understanding the complexity that has now been put into some of these things that we've always used, which is great. If it's seamless and it works, I think that's fantastic. The next question I wanted to jump to, and you may or may not have an answer to this, but I thought it'd be fun for us to give our audience some of the tools that we're using to make our days easier. And I'll start. I'm using a tool called Gamma for PowerPoint presentations. While I don't build my whole presentation in it, I will take my script, I'll put it into Gamma. It produces 10 slides for me. And from there, I can take the elements that it's built and put into my own PowerPoint presentation, but it really speeds up the time of building a PowerPoint. And the other one is a partner of mine. I leverage marketingbudget.ai, and Raheem, we're using it for analyzing replenishment and uh, how items are purchased and what the competition is doing with their flyers. Those are two tools that I'm using on a regular basis. I mean, obviously, I'm using the ones like Gronk and Claude and Perplexity and ChatGPT. I use a mix of them. A Gemini is one that's actually had some enhancements lately that I use more of. Is there some specific tools that you guys are using that stand out in your mind to make things just day to day easier? Again, David, I'll start with you.
Tons. Yeah, it is. It is just such a part of it, the day now. And Johnny, I appreciate you. It makes me feel good to say that you think I'm ahead on the AI curve, because this is an area where I always feel behind. I just feel like there's so much to learn. I can't take enough information and read enough and experience enough about it to even feel comfortable. Right? I do feel like this industry is moving so much quicker than I'm able to keep up to. So I appreciate that you think I'm ahead of it, but I promise you, I've got my little niche that I'm maybe sophisticated in, but there's so much more that's happening outside that realm, right? I think we become users or specialists in these very specific little areas. And past that, there's an awful lot happening here. You can talk about three things really quickly. One of them not specifically a product, but Terry, you raised some really good points. The larger enterprises are better equipped, so to speak. But I'm more excited about what the potential for small businesses, because now you get these innovators and visionaries that have been handcuffed to the cost of technology deployment, working with the developers, the agency to do certain things. And now so much of that is unlocked because we can produce so much, and it can come from our own cerebral capacity, because these tools are so in place to help us and evolving quickly. But where large enterprises are failing, is in acceptable use and security policies, right? So I use a product called Panorad. I'll give like full disclosure. I have an interest and I have a piece of equity in that business. Panorad is a private GPT. It's a container environment that you deploy for larger enterprises on your own software infrastructure to keep data integrity and to keep your information out of the public domain. And so no matter what, if you're using ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, even Gemini, you are putting your data up into the cloud that is hosted by another company, right? That's third party infrastructure. So Panorad protects all that because it's deployed within your cloud. It defines acceptable use policies for your organization. So you can actually bring in the functionality of a lot of the platforms that we're talking about today, but it still lives within your own secure environment. Anything that you teach it, any organizational memory that you build inside of it, like every proposal that you've ever written can live inside this thing, and anyone in your organization can mine that for information in real time. It's all protected because it's on your side. It's also collaborative. That's a huge piece, right? I think where we haven't gotten to, if you talk about like, hey, we're all using Claude now, we're all using Gemini now. So yeah, it's in silos though, right? And full interactivity of like hundreds or thousands of human beings within an organization working on one AI platform is going to be kind of the next generation where this goes. That's what Panorad equips you to do. Gemini, Google Workspace powered by AI, because I typically run Google based organizations. I'll set up on Google Cloud, I'll set up on Google Workspace. We use Gmail inboxes, having like full insights and capabilities around all of that now to be able to look into my history, find a document. It's what's every time that I've mentioned this particular word in a proposal over the last 3 years. That's now at my fingertips, right? It's something I could never, ever, ever do a search because search can interpret anything aside from a keyword. And now there's a semantics that goes along with everything. So your inboxes, your cloud storage, interactions through chat interfaces, meeting transcriptions, absolutely everything can be stored and queryable. That's been a game changer for me. And I wouldn't say that, my companies are particularly advanced in it just yet. We're just at the tipping point of that starting to happen. This fully collaborative organization using your own cloud like that is pretty exciting. Okay, I'll
Great.
pass it on.
Yeah. Okay, so now I feel more behind. Thank you, Dave. Okay, I'm gonna go listen to that again and write everything down. So I mean, Chris mentioned Gamma. Like my weakness has always been starting a presentation and knowing what it's gonna look like. Not the context, not the content, not the feel. Like the content comes so easily for me. I was always like, I'm gonna design this. And Microsoft PowerPoint Design Aid is not very good, right? So I've been using Gamma for that. It helps me so much offloading that first draft of design. You guys know, like I wrote a book. The words were not the hard part. The design of the book, the title of the book, finding a publisher, that was the hard part. And that was before AI. So I find like for that, yeah, definitely Gamma, ChatGPT, and Gemini are my go-tos. And I think you guys have pushed me to do this. I'm big on education and learning things. So I put in March, I want to learn all about Claude, April's Perplexity, and then the next month, guys throwing at me, I'll learn that too. But I want to get out there and learn even more. Right now, I've been diving deep into GPT and Gemini. So I'm definitely open to learning more. And Chris, you mentioned marketing budget AI a few times. Maybe that's my one.
Yeah. I think another one, and I'm going to bugger the name. It's early. I think it's Zapper or something, Zap something. I will drop it in the comments.
Zapier.
But ultimately,
Zapier.
it's one that you take your core Zapier and you take your core platform that you're using, whether it's Claude or whatever, and you integrate it with this tool, and it allows you to do search engine optimization. It allows you to create different experts of agents to then do these tasks for you, and you can basically have these things done on a regular basis. And I just started learning about that on the weekend. So while I try to stay up to date on everything, it's changing so fast, and how many connectors that you have to have. It's quite amazing. But once you start to dive into it, it allows you to start thinking about not using AI as just a tool, but using it as a teammate. And I think when you have that distinction, it's incredible. Tara, what are some of the tools that you may use?
Yeah, I love where David's going. And while we talk enterprise, yeah, if you've got, $20 million, $30 million in capital, great to deploy. When you're a small business and it's you and yourself and I, These tools are so important. Zapier is great from a project management and integration. I've been playing around with ClickUp. It's all project management. It allows for the collaboration that David mentioned. Lovable's one of my favorites. Lovable allows you to do the vibe coding with one founder I work with. That's where we build all of our event pages, and it's just an extension of the website. Notebook LM was one I've used for the last couple of years, only because sometimes I don't want to consume a lot of content. So generating the audiobook for me so I could just kind of listen to this AI generated podcast, I prefer it. And it actually gives you such a great summary of robust content in a way that is manageable and snackable. To David's point, to be able to consume that much content could possibly take a month. So Johnny, maybe check out Notebook LM for all of your learning and your education. And for me, I mean, my default where I build a lot of my work is within ChatGPT. Her name is Carla. She's quite brilliant. We built a relationship. She is my partner. I brainstorm with her. The best function within ChatGPT is the deep analysis. The deep analysis that you can go into, and if you build the right prompts, it can build such incredible insight into global markets. It can build specific within different countries, different industries. It's fantastic. Now, it'll take a long time to run the deep analysis, and it is really dependent on your prompts. Can't just be a one-liner, but it's pretty effective and pretty impactful. And the idea that it gives you all of the resources, like where it's pulled its insight, is incredible because you can always do your validation. I mean, I think we are naturally early adopters, but we're also not fully trusting the output at this point, which is, I think is smart. So those are some of mine, but I think project management for small businesses, mid businesses, that has been, if we're going to say silver bullet for some of these small businesses, being able to manage all of their projects and all of their plugins like Zapier, game changer for them. It's probably quadrupled their resources.
I love the concept of being able to leverage this from a small business perspective and kind of leveling up because these are things that, things that you would have to really, really invest in years ago. And now you can have 5 to 10 staff on your team added instantly with these agents, which is incredible. I think for anyone that struggles with prompts, the one piece of advice I can say is, and you guys can try this as well, it's quite fun, is to write your base prompt, put that into whatever agent you're using, and ask it to help improve your prompt. They can actually write prompts for you, which is fun. And then take it to another agent and ask them to improve that prompt even more. And all of a sudden, your prompts become excellent because the AI agents are writing it for you, and then you put it into the core one that you best like using, and the results you get are far better than just writing your standard prompt. And I don't know why it works so well, but it's unbelievable how you get different agents to write the prompts, and it's been game changing for me. So
Have them compete with one another, I think is the lesson. Like actually antagonize them and tell them like, look, Gemini just wrote this for me. Claude, you're supposed to be the master of this. They'll actually take it personally. You're dealing with intelligence and it will take it to heart, right? It will get offended. It'll get its feelings hurt a little bit, and it will try harder to do a better job. So you can pass an output back and forth between different GPTs and let it optimize your output. Essentially, it's fascinating. It's fun to do.
It's a great point, David. I don't know that people realize when you think about Google and search, right? You type in and you get the response. Usually that's always paid or non-paid. Google has no emotions, no attachment other than getting the click-through rates and getting the revenue. In AI, with all of these different tools, I call her Carla. Carla's only objective is to please me, and that's where there's got to be a caution that's built in when you're working with all of these tools. The only objective of the tool is to please you and make you happy. And you have to know that when you're having these kind of interactions and prompts and getting content and data, there is going to be an inherent bias in the output, guaranteed, because it's been having conversations with you and it knows what you like, what you don't like. So there's always a caution, I say to people when they look at, outputs from different tools, is know what its motivation is. And its motivation is just to make you happy. So it's actually taking your and layering it into
Yeah.
the output.
Yeah, it's a great caution because you can see from every prompt it tells you how smart you are. Right off the hop. It says, that was really thought out. Well done. And I'm like, actually,
Johnny,
I
Yeah.
give those a thumbs up usually.
actually,
You can throw
I
some
didn't prompt
pretty
you with,
silly stuff.
sorry, David, what was that? I was
You can
talking.
throw some pretty silly stuff. And it'll tell you what a great idea it is, right?
But yeah,
So,
sorry.
absolutely.
The one follow-up, one of you prompted me when I was thinking about this is how many of you are still typing to the agent versus using the speaking capability?
voice almost all the time. For me, it's too inefficient.
I'm 50.
Typing.
I use voice on my phone. Like when I'm out and about, I use voice rather than type on my phone, but I use my laptop when I'm at home.
Yeah, same on laptop. I have voice control on the remote for the TV too. And my kids are like, why don't you ever talk to them? And I think like part of that is like I have Alexa and Google and like they're never like that great sometimes, right? So like I find like I'm just more efficient in pressing guide, finding my channel than talking to it because it always spews out bad results. But
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah. I
it's just
think
me.
it's quite different. I've been leveraging it the last probably week and a half. I think actually after watching a Super Bowl commercial, it prompted me to start having dialogue with it instead of typing. And I find that it's because it's basically listening and you're going back and forth and you're not typing and putting in typos. And it's just great conversation. And all of a sudden you have this well-defined document at the end of it. I would challenge Johnny to give it a go over the weekend and just spend half an hour having a dialogue with the AI versus a prompt, and it's quite amazing what you get out of it. So I think last question is if you were to be speaking with a business tomorrow, or if you were running your own business and you could hire an AI agent inside your business, what job would you give it right away? And I'll start with you, Tara.
I would give it project management in a heartbeat. I think that project management supports collaboration and collaboration supports alignment between different teams. So we've lived in such a world of silos, and a lot of that came from the introduction of e-commerce and omnichannel, et cetera. There's still a lot of silos that exist in businesses. If you can bring in something that gives transparency and visibility across the status of projects or spend or results within an organization, it can actually bring the teams together, especially in the still work from home hybrid workplace. So I would say look at project management. It will flow into the culture as well as the performance of an organization.
Love that. Love that. Johnny?
Yeah, I think of the center of retail, and we always think it's like marketing, but especially on the apparel side, like merchandising and inventory. I'd put it there. Imagine an agent constantly analyzing sell through, regional demand, national demand, international demand, promotions, weather, trends, and then recommending buys, markdown cadence, timing, promos, campaigns, assortment shifts, right? Like that's where my mind goes into how this could all help. And then retail lives and dies on those small decisions on SKUs, like thousands of SKUs and the margins of each of those. And so it could drive significant margin impact. So, it's not replacing merchants by any means, but it's giving them this superpower that, maybe they didn't have, or they were really, some merchants are really strong at the buy and maybe not on the other things that come with it, right? Or some vice versa, where they're really good at knowing when a dog's a dog and they mark it down. Kind of gives them all aspects of buying, right? So I think that's the center of retail is really in that product. As much as we like to think marketing is the center, I think it really is on the merchandising side.
David?
two things jump out for me. First is data analysis and visualization, right? So I use an in-house tool called Aperture. Seeing data, not just having access to reporting. I think we've grown up with reporting, and reporting to me feels like a redundancy now. You need to see data in real time. You need to see how it's changing. You need anomaly detection. Like it's not good enough anymore to figure out that Black Friday wasn't really good, but it's already Saturday. It just can't happen, right? If something's not working, you can be told in real time. AI can be analyzing your data in real time. It's really easy to connect to these resources and actually see what's happening and get signals, right? Get notifications on your phone. It's like, wow, that's pretty bad traffic for a Thursday morning, right? It's 7:41. All of that is within your capability right now. And not a lot of people are using it, but it's been life changing for me. I don't want to wait for the month end report if I'm in an executive position or something like that, right? I want to see data now and be able to take action on that data right now. So analytics and visualization. The other one though is security, right? Just as a cautionary tale, a lot of what we're talking about is like there's at the high level of transparency and visibility that comes along with all this. There's nefarious activity. I do think the security side of an organization needs to be shored up. There's great AI tools that are kind of monitoring network security, some kind of semblance around how we use AI within an organization, because it's the Wild West right now, right? Just all of us have mentioned so many tools that we're using, but were they endorsed? Were they authorized by our employers? Not typically. We're using them to make ourselves more productive, but there is an acceptable use policy that controls most of that for organizations. So I think becoming conscious of the security impacts of how you utilize and having some kind of governance around what and who uses artificial intelligence is really important.
Great. The one area that I've been really playing around with in the last 2 years, and it started with one of my last roles with a retailer because the retailer had 1,000 stores. And I decided to come up with this concept of doing a scorecard per store and then ranking all of our stores based on foot traffic, transactions, conversion, basket size, how many units, but also looking at factors like what was the competition around those stores? What were the weather patterns around those stores? Looking at the website and how the site performed versus the individual store's traffic on the site. And getting all of this information and putting it into a chat agent allows me to say, okay, when we released a flyer, 80% of the stores were successful. Why were the other 20 stores not successful? Then I can get down to they didn't have the inventory levels, or the paid media didn't actually trigger in those markets, or whatever I had answers for each of the stores. And it was far better than walking into a leadership meeting and going, let me get back to you. I'll have to do some research. By creating a scorecard ahead of time allows me to really be effective and identify whether it's marketing, replenishment, merchandising assortment. The geolocation has changed from a year ago because a Canadian Tire opened up in the marketplace or whatever. So I think for me, if anyone needs help, call me. But setting up a scorecard for their business and their physical locations was and has been critical over the last couple of years. And I've already been doing that now for about 3 different clients, and it's really magical when you get that lens and a report card every day coming in to say this is how each of your stores are performing, and this is where the ups are happening, and this is where the lows are happening. It's pretty amazing, and I wouldn't have been able to do that manually, but now with AI support, you can get to this really quickly. So that's our show for today. We look forward to seeing you next Thursday. We've had on our YouTube channel 2 episodes dropped, and we'll be dropping episode 3 later today. And really want to hear more from our audience. We've been getting some engagement on LinkedIn, but we want to do these videos for you. We want to make sure that we're providing content that's relevant, solving opportunities, questions, concerns in the business, because we can talk about any topic, but we want to be able to really satisfy the need in the industry. So please start getting engaged. Give us your feedback, comments, and positive or negative, and looking forward to it. Any last comments from the team?
When you're talking about the scorecards,
Yes.
so AI, I think it's either overhyped or people are dismissing it. And I think AI is sitting in the middle, because what you just mentioned, right? If your fundamentals are weak, and what I
Yes.
mean by that is like you have all this information now, how do you leverage it and how do you fix things? Because let's say you have 120 stores and 20 of them are underperforming, and you give this to the manager and the director and the regional head. What do they do?
Yep.
Because AI is not going to fix it. Like there's something
Agreed.
there that has to happen, right? And so I think that's sometimes people are thinking that it's going to be the end solution. No, it helps you get there quicker, but contextually, like what are you going to do? And that's where that leverage is. AI is important, but use it as a transformative journey. You still got to be a good leader out there. You still got to make decisions.
Sure.
So it's not replacing us yet.
No, you definitely, that's a great point you bring up, Johnny. The amount of follow-up insights that you look for in digging where you see the gaps, whether it's in merchandising, why didn't my goods flow to that store? The POP kits didn't get displayed at these stores. Was that left in the back room, or was it not
Yeah,
even delivered, et cetera, et cetera? You have to dive into those things and bring an action plan. But by having the scorecard allows you to really get down to faster where to look. Yeah.
absolutely.
Great. Great. I love the conversations with you guys. It's always fun. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for joining Commerce Rewired.